Hello Internet, welcome back to our tutorial series. Last couple episodes we've been talking about setting up the game, setting up your tile sets, all that good stuff. Today we're actually going to play, but again, because it's a tutorial, we're going to be going very slow and we're going to be talking about everything. So first and foremost, here we are in the evac shelter, which we've already talked about, and we want to start moving around. Now the easiest way to do this is using a numpad. The directional keys are standard for every ASCII game and roguelike that have ever been produced. 1 is down left, 2 down is south, etc., etc. And so 8 is north, 2 is south, 9 is diagonal, etc., etc. So that's pretty standard, very intuitive. That is how I play the game. When I played on a laptop, I did not have a keypad on a numpad on my laptop, and so I would use the arrow keys to move north, south, east, and west, but you couldn't move diagonally. But you can press the numeric keys at the top of the keyboard that correspond to the numpad. So for instance, on the numpad, 7 represents northwest, moving up and to the left, and so I can press 7 on my regular number keys and still move in that direction. So you can do that. Alternatively, you can learn to just use the arrow keys and kind of learn how to use that. Alternatively, if you press escape and you go to options, if you press escape and you go to display key bindings menu, it will pop up a list of all the key binds that are in the game. And so if this is an issue for you, if you want to move northwest without pressing the 7 key, you can find that in this list and then make the change yourself. So for instance, by default, I believe this is all default, to move northwest, which is what we were talking about, you can press the Y key or the 7 key, and that doesn't specify if that's the numpad or the regular number keys, so either one will work. Additionally, for keyboard users, I believe even Kevin said this is how he plays the game, is to use the letter keys here to move. Now that's not something that I have ever used. I see there's not one for Southeast. That's probably just my issue. But anyway, this is something we're going to refer to pretty frequently, the default key bindings. You can find them in this menu. Everything is listed here. You'll see I have a lot of things that are not bound. Some of those are debug type things. Some of those I believe are just quickly getting there when you can go other ways. So for instance, here I see active world mods. We can actually check that through the escape menu, which is active world mods. So I don't really need a key that takes me specifically there. But this is also searchable, is worth noting. So let's say we are having trouble toggling our run mode. We can type in run, and you'll see it brings up the two options, how to cycle the movement mode between run, walk, and crouch, or alternatively to set up a specific button for running. So you can use this anytime that you're struggling to find a key binding. The way to do this generally is to add a global key bind. Sometimes they do not allow you to do that because it will say it conflicts with local key bindings, but you can try adding local or adding global, and of course we have the function to remove as well. So I'm not going to add one for toggle run because I actually use the cycle movement mode key, which is the double quotes. But you can search this just by typing in something that you're looking for. And it's very straightforward, very simple. So if you're ever struggling to find something, refer to this list, and you can search the list for whatever. So that's step 1. So I use the numpad to move around. Alternatively, you can also click on a location and it will take you there. I believe you have to double click in order to move. So first click will just select that kind of movement, and then clicking again confirms that movement. So you can use the mouse, although I would highly recommend you not use the mouse. It's a little obnoxious and you really don't want to have a hand off the keyboard. I usually keep my hands, both hands on the keyboard when I play Cataclysm. So that is how we move around. We can also interact with the world around us. Now there are lots of ways to do this as well. So here, for instance, there is a cabinet. So real quick, there are furniture items. You'll see there are some more cabinets to our north. There are no items displayed here, and that is because you cannot see what's in the cabinet until you are within range of it. You'll see when I step into range, it now displays that there are items inside of these cabinets. It will do that for any container that you're adjacent to. Now this works for cabinets, dressers. There's all kinds of stuff that only will reveal its contents. Lockers are the same way. Will only reveal its contents when you step close to it. Now once you step close to an item and you want to pick it up, People tell me to use the G key, but I never do that. I always press E, and then it will prompt me which direction I want to examine, and then I will select the tile and I will go to get items. Now that's definitely the longer way to do it, but that is the muscle memory that I've built up over years of playing the game. So obviously pressing G immediately takes me to that menu, whereas this is a longer process. So that's one way of doing it. I assume you can click as well. You cannot click, it just moves you there, and right clicking does open that menu, but then you have to navigate with your keyboard. So you can right click to select as well. But I use E, so if you see me do that, that's just my muscle memory. So we can interact with the world that way. This applies also to our NPC that's standing over here. Real quick, let me change something. So we speak to our NPC the same way. I will press the E key and it will prompt me where. Depending on your installation, it may auto-select the NPC. By default, if there's only one target in range and you press the E key, it will select that target automatically. I've turned that off because, again, muscle memory has really got me to the point where I'm used to selecting after pressing the button. But for you, it may auto-select. So let's talk to our NPC and see what we get. We get some options here when we use the examine menu. We can talk to them, examine their wounds, use an item on them, etc. I'm not 100% on how NPCs work. I don't often play with them. So this is a little unfamiliar for me, but I've played enough that I should be able to figure it out. So let's talk to them. You'll see we get this menu. This is the menu you'll see anytime you're interacting with an NPC. And it basically is just a conversation menu. So it says, well, I guess it's just us. Well, we can respond with, what should we do now? Do they have any tips for us? Can I do anything for them that will give us a quest of some sort? Do they want to travel with us? Do we want to trade items? Or do they want to share anything with us? Or we can end our conversation. And then we have additional menus down here. Let's check our opinion. Shift O. He is a level 1 trust. He is wary of us. And he values our presence. Well, okay then. How about we offer to do a quest for them? Can I do anything for you? I have another job for you. Do you want to hear about it? Sure, tell me about it. As the world seems to abandon the reality that we once knew, it seems plausible that the old superstitions that were cast aside may have some truth to them. Please go and find me a religious relic. I doubt it will be of much use, but I've got a hope in something. And we'll say, sure, we will do that. As far as I know, there is no time limit on this particular quest. We'll check that in a moment. And I wish you the best of luck. May whatever God you please guide your path. Very good. I'll be back soon. We're going to leave them here. And the reason we're going to leave them here is because the Cataclysm is a very dangerous place. And would you like to travel with me? Have I done it? No, I'll be back to get it. So we can't get him to travel. Oh, we can. Do you want to travel with me? And you'll see this brings up our chance of talking to this person and what our odds of convincing them are. Now, because we took ugly, we have a lower chance. Did I take ugly? I think I did. We will have a lower chance because NPCs don't like ugly people. You'll see we can try to convince them that we can keep them safe, which is a 22% chance of success. We could get them to keep us safe, which has no chance. We can try to play up we're friends, right? Because we're doing the mission for them and whatnot, which has a 31% chance. Or we can try to intimidate them and threaten them, which is a 0%. So we'll try. I don't think we can back out. We cannot. So we have to select one of these options, which is a little disappointing. And we'll try to persuade them at 31%. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, that's fine. Once we complete a quest for them, they will be more likely to find us. They asked us to find a religious relic. We can look at our current quest by pressing the capital M key. So Shift M. You'll see our active mission is to find a relic. It does not mention a time limit or anything, so I think that this will be just fine. And we can we can use the arrow keys to navigate to the additional menus here, but we haven't completed or failed any other missions. So for the time being, we'll keep our eyes out for a religious relic, although they're not super common, and we would have to target specific locations in the world to try and find them. We can again toggle our map with the lowercase m key, and we can look around and try to find a church or cathedral or something. I can tell you just at a glance that there's not one in this area, so I'm not super worried about that. So we're going to leave our NPC buddy alone for now. You'll see they do have a weapon and whatnot. If we highlight them with our mouse, or alternatively, if you don't like taking your hand off the keyboard to look at the mouse, you can press the lowercase x key, and it will bring up a cursor to show you where you're targeting. and then it will display on the right hand side a menu of whatever you're looking at. So if we go ahead and move this over the NPC, you'll see he is wielding a pipe, he is wearing leather pants, sweater, etc. And so it shows us that he at least has some kind of weapon to protect himself. The pipe is not a good weapon, but it is what he has. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, we're in an evac shelter. We've just started the game, so what do we need to do? We've had a minute and about 2 minutes pass in game, which is about 200 turns, and what do we need, right? We have shelter, right? That is one of those, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have shelter. We can turn this into a base. Depending on what scenario you start with, shelter may or may not be readily accessible. You might start out in the wilderness if you chose a deep woods type start. You could start in a place that's extremely dangerous, that's not safe for you to sleep in. But the evac shelter is a very safe location. They often generate outside of towns. You'll see this is all town up here, and then out here is like fields and forests. So this is much less dangerous on this side of things. If we spawned in the smack dab in the middle of the town, there would be a lot of zombies in the surrounding area. But because we're slightly out in the boonies here, and we're surrounded mostly by forest, we don't have to worry too much about zombies. There are going to be animals in the forest, of course, but most animals in the game are not super dangerous that they're going to kill you on day one. Most of them you can scare away or fight if need be. We are going to be a little careful when we do start moving outside, but for now, this is a perfectly serviceable place for us to make our base. I personally would probably settle in like this house instead, because it lets us get access to the nearby area a little bit easier than having to walk all the way down the road to get to town. But for now, we're going to work on the idea that we're going to be staying in the shelter. So, shelter is taken care of. What else do we need? Well, we're going to need food and drink. You'll see we're already hungry. Although being hungry is not like devastating. It doesn't mean you're starving to death or anything like that. We'll talk about that in more detail when we get there. But we're hungry, we're going to get thirsty, so we're going to need food and drink. We're going to need to protect ourselves, so we're going to need a weapon. And those are the primary things whenever you start a scenario that you should be thinking about. Securing a weapon is usually the number one priority because most scenarios don't start in such a safe place. So for us, we want to get our hands on something that we can use to protect ourselves. And if we look around in the shelving, there's really not like going to be any weapons or anything that's readily available. So usually the best course of action is to smash a locker, or if you're really desperate, a wooden object, so that you can get a plank or a pipe or something that you can hold to just very basic self-defense, right? So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to walk over to these lockers. It doesn't matter if it has stuff in it. It won't destroy the items that are inside of it. And we're going to press the S key, and you'll see it brings up, lowercase s, brings up this prompt that says smash where, and it's asking us what do we want to smash nearby. So we're going to punch the locker, and we get a clang, and you'll see, we startled our NPC, he doesn't know what that noise is. You hear clang, but it didn't get destroyed. That's because there's some math. When you try to smash something, it is your current strength combined with your current weapon's bash damage, and that has to beat a certain value depending on the furniture. So lockers aren't super durable. You can break them with your hands. It's not super scary. But harder, like if we were trying to beat down the wall, we would have no effect. I would show you, but I don't want to lose our stamina and whatnot. It would basically just say you don't appear to be damaging the wall. So instead, we're just going to smash again, and we're going to repeat this process. And you'll see as we're smashing, our stamina is being depleted. And now you'll hear in the background, there is a heartbeat sound. That is the sound pack that I'm currently using. I didn't talk about sound packs. I don't know what the default is. We can go back into the options menu, go over to interface. No, general probably. Sound pack, yes. At the bottom it says if you want sound enabled. I'm currently using the chest hole sound pack. I don't know what the default, apparently basic is the default. I don't use that, I use chest hole. So for me, it's the heartbeat sound that indicates my stamina is dropping. If you're playing some other sound packs, the ones I've heard are, it's usually breathing noises, but I find that a little harder to notice. So I like having the heartbeat sound in the background. So that is what's happening. Our stamina is slowly depleting. Every time we smash, we're exerting ourselves. And you'll see that stamina bar slowly ticks down. Like I said, it goes from vertical pipe to a backslash to a dot. Dot means it's depleted. So currently we have 2.5 of 5 stamina bar. And we don't want to let that get too low, right? So we're going to continue smashing and hopefully break the locker. Okay, so we've broken the locker. It took many, many tries. It took us 22 tries to actually break the locker. And now our stamina is somewhat depleted. You'll see we were making noise that whole time. So what we're going to do, we're going to rest to get our stamina back. Really, anytime you're out of stamina, you should be trying to get to a place where you can rest and regain your stamina, because everything fighting-wise requires stamina. And so if a zombie had hurt us smashing that locker and came barreling through the window, we're not in a good condition to fight the zombie because our stamina is depleting. So what we're going to do, we're going to press the vertical pipe key, which again is just this line, this vertical line. This appears on the keyboard usually around the enter key. So it's a shift vertical pipe. It's usually on the same key as the backslash, which is the one that leans backwards like this here. And it'll bring up this menu. It says you have an alarm clock because we have a wristwatch and a cell phone, so we can set an alarm. It says, what do you want to do? And we'll go wait a while, and we'll press enter. And it'll ask us, how long do we want to wait? And we can wait for long periods of time if that's something we're interested in. Sometimes it's valuable to wait until night or whatever. But for now, we just want to catch our breath, so we'll use the wait until we catch our breath function. And you'll see some time passed, our stamina was refilled, and we are fine. If an enemy or something had come into sight while we were resting, the game would bring up a pop-up and say, hey, you know, this monster's coming to eat your face. Would you like to stop resting? And then you can select yes or no. So it's not like you're going to die doing that. It will prompt you about that. So we've smashed this locker, and if we use the E key again to examine what has been dropped here, you'll see it has dropped scrap metal and sheet metal. That's actually really unfortunate. There was a change to lockers recently, so that lockers no longer guarantee dropping a pipe. So we actually did not get anything we can use as a weapon. You'll see if we look at this, this does not even have information for a weapon, but if we look at small sheet metal, this does. We could use this as a weapon. It has 5 bash damage and a -3 to hit, which is really bad. So we don't necessarily want to do that. So instead, let's try smashing a bench. You'll see it gives a different sound instead of using the smashing metal, which is something I like. And we're just going to repeat that process. And there we've successfully smashed the bench. I'm going to wait to get my stamina back. And we're going to look through the remnants of the bench. You see there's a splintered wood here, which is a 4 bash and +1 to hit, which is not terrible, but the plank is what we're looking for. You'll see it has 10 bash damage and it has a +1 to hit. It also displays other information. So anytime we look at an item in the game, it doesn't matter what the item is, it will have this pop-up of information. We can also pick things up into our inventory and then look at them inside the inventory, which will open up the same list of information. So there are a couple ways to do that, but when you use the examine menu, the E key, and select an item, you can hover over with the arrow keys which of these items you want to look at, and you'll see the information is displayed here. Now, depending on the item, it's going to display lots of different information. Most items have this section at the bottom, which says what you can craft with this item. You'll see both the splintered wood and the nails have this. So that is pretty standard. There's usually also a section where it tells you different qualities of the item. So for instance, nails are not repairable and they can conduct electricity. Whereas if we go to the splintered wood, it says that this does not conduct electricity. It also has information about it being a firewood material because it's splintered wood. And yeah, it's going to relay different information depending on the item. So these materials section is not present in, it is present in the splintered wood section. It tells you what the material is made of. The nails are made of iron. The wood is made of wood, unsurprisingly. And then this can also be used as an ammunition. So here it's showing the ammunition information. And then additionally, every item will have a description, which is the top line here. It will also tell you what category it fits in, what the price of this item is, like what the item is worth, how much volume the item currently occupies, and what the weight of the item is. And then because this is a weapon, it gives us the bash damage to hit bonus and how many moves it takes to make an attack. Ooh, a lot of information. Okay, so I've picked up the plank, which I shouldn't have done because I should show you how to pick items up. So let's drop the plank. We will select the tile the plank is on. You'll see there it's listed as the C item. And what you can do this a couple ways. You can toggle this by using left and right on the arrow keys. Additionally, well, that's really the only way to do it. If you use left and right on the arrow keys, right will select the item, left will unselect the item. So we want to select the plank to pick that up, and then we press enter, and it will remove us from that menu, and it will try to put that in our inventory. Now, we don't currently have space enough in our inventory to hold this plank, so instead of putting it in like our backpack or in our pockets or whatever, it says, hey, you can't fit this in your inventory. Would you like to hold it in your hands instead? Would you like to wield that item as a weapon? And we will just say yes, wield that as a plank. We could also hit escape there to cancel the pickup action. So now, if we access our inventory, which we use the lowercase I key for inventory, it will bring up our inventory, and you'll see this is the stuff that we currently have. On the left side are items that are currently in our inventory, and the right side, generally, this can change depending on how many items you have in your in this menu. It can blend the list together. But for the most part, the items on the left are things that are in your inventory. Things on the right side are the things that are currently on your person, like wielded or worn clothing. And so the left, we're carrying a cell phone, matchbook, pocket knife, wristwatch, and plastic bottle of water in our inventory, in our pockets, or in a backpack, or whatever our storage is. And then on the right side, we have the plank, which is in our hands, which is why it says weapon held. And then it also says the items currently worn on our body, our socks, underwear, etc. So, how do we determine how much we can store in our inventory? Well, we have two major limitations. Man, this series is so... I don't feel good at tutorial content. Hopefully this has all been good so far. There are two main limiting factors in your carry weight, or in how much you can carry in your inventory. Number one is weight. Each character, based on strength, I believe is the only factor, I'm not 100%, will have a weight that they can carry. Now, being currently we're at 15 pounds of 135 pounds, so we can carry quite a lot of weight. You can go over this. So let's say I wanted to carry, I don't know, a whole big pile of stuff. It's okay if I'm up to 150 weight. It will just deplete our stamina as we move. Much more quickly than if we were not overweight. So that's a soft cap, let's say. It's a soft cap on how much you can carry. You should try to be under this weight, but if you go over it, it's not a big deal, as long as you're not trying to engage in like major combat while you're overburdened. Okay? The other limiting factor is our volume, which is listed here in liters. And you'll see we currently have 0.86 liters of 4.91 liters. This is a hard cap. You cannot exceed that particular volume. If you try to pick something up that is more volume than you can store, it will prompt you to put it in your hands, and that is the only way to carry something beyond your volume limitations. 4 liters is not terrible, 5 liters really. The problem is that we don't have any storage options. All of that volume is coming from like our pockets and stuff that we have. So if we look at our items, we can actually tell which ones have volume. So if we select, no, not our underwear, select our jeans, you'll see it displays information that is fitting to an armor or clothing item. It tells you what it's made of, where it goes on the body, what layer it is. We'll talk about that later. How much of your body it covers, how warm it is, how encumbering it is to wear this item, and what storage, importantly, it gives to your character. So just wearing these jeans increases our storage by 0.5 liters. So if we look, we're at 4.91. If we take off our jeans, we're now at 4.20. What? Why? That doesn't match up. That was 7.7 liters. Why, I don't know why that doesn't match up. But point is, regardless of the exact numbers, to increase your storage volume, you need to carry storage items. So items that normally have pockets, like a hoodie has a big pocket that can store a lot of items. But if we wear a t-shirt, there's usually not really storage there. So it's a balance of finding things that have storage versus what do I wear that's best for protecting me or warm enough for my environment. And but that's where most volume comes from, is from backpacks, heavy rucksacks, duffel bags, that kind of stuff that you can wear on your body that increase the amount of stuff you can carry. Now, we didn't start with any of those items, so that is an early game priority, is to get more access to storage, because currently we can't carry very much. We would have to make short trips and drop things as we go. We can get a little bit of more inventory space by wearing our wristwatch, because when we wear something, it removes it from our storage and puts it on our body, which does not cost our storage. And alternatively, like currently we're at 0.61. If I go ahead and drop the plastic water bottle, you'll see, well, we haven't talked about dropping yet, but when we drop it, you'll see it reflects that change in our volume by dropping almost half a liter, or precisely half a liter, which means this item is a half a liter of water. So that's where the storage and weight and volume stuff is displayed in your inventory. It also shows up in the drop menu. It shows up when you try to pick things up. You'll see at the top it says our weight and volume. And that's just something you're going to have to learn to work around. I remember when I first started learning Cataclysm, volume was something that was very difficult for me. We've had changes since then that have made it a lot easier to carry more storage. But back then, it was really hard for me. In the early game, I always felt like I couldn't carry anything. So we'll be working with that as we proceed. I honestly think we should call the episode, although I don't feel like we covered very much. I feel like this series is not going very well, and I'm very self-conscious. I've been very anxious lately. Internet, I know most of you who come here just for a tutorial probably don't care, but the people who watch a lot of my stuff, I have anxiety. And lately, I've just been feeling real anxious, and it's so hard for me to really focus in on a project and actually do something constructive, and this is I just don't feel like I'm doing well. Anyway, we're going to call the episode. Thank you for watching. I, of course, will be back with more in the future. And by the way, real quick, I auto-save all the time, and we do this by pressing escape, and then you'll see at the bottom there is a 0, which quick saves. That is generally how I save the game. Alternatively, you can capital S and select save and quit, which will take you back to the main game menu. And then you'll have to load back in manually. But I quick save all the time. Probably should have mentioned that in episode 1, just in case you've been watching these as you go. But yeah, quick save, escape 0, learn it, make it muscle memory. It'll save you from a lot of grief, especially if you do YouTube and you risk dropping footage all the time. So that's going to do it. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. I'll be back with more Cataclysm content in the near future, and I'll see you next time.